Let's go.
I'd honestly raise it.
I babysit for her. Oh my God. I need to do something stupid better. Like that. Wait, that's so cool. Yeah. I was going to act all this. Thank you guys. Fair enough, my people.
I now call this meeting of the 2024-2025 Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, March 6, 2025, with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations: the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was, and still is, stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. So good evening, everyone. We're trying to decide which placard to use. So interim chair Brain Blood or parliamentarian Brian Blood. We'll figure it out as we go. But with that, interim secretary Strunk's gonna take it off with our first roll call.
All right, Alvarez. Bailey.
Here.
Black.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Bolton. Byers. Casement. Koch.
Here.
Cox. Ediger.
Here by proxy.
Erickson.
Here.
George.
Yeah.
Giefer.
Here.
Glanville.
Yeah, judges, yeah.
Got you. Glanville. Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hassan Shakib. Hoffman. Holmes.
Here.
Holzmeister.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Jonak.
Here.
Carton. Kidd.
Here.
Kermer.
Here.
Kramer. Lee. Lilly.
Here.
Yep. McCullough. Moltz. Morris.
Here.
Nagai Velasquez.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Owen.
Here.
Polanco. Prey.
Yeah.
Rabi.
Yeah.
Rafferty.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Shah Savari.
Here.
Shirky.
Here.
Sides. Stewart.
Here.
Sushanik.
Here.
Weaver. And Zacko.
Here.
All right.
Hold on.
Senator Caucus Leader Moltz.
Mr. Interim Speaker, do we have quorum?
We're gonna figure that out after our first open period. We're working on that. With that, we don't have any scheduled first open period speakers, so is there anyone else who'd like to speak in first open period? Yes. Name?
Tyler Carlgren.
And are you a president of a student organization?
My president of PowerCat Motorsports designated me his speaker rights. Does he have to be here?
So if you're not a president of a student org, then you can speak.
Oh.
If you've been designated speaking rights, you cannot speak in first open period.
What if I take that back?
Well, that's fine.
We have
Hold on. So you're not,
I am not a president.
okay, you may speak. You can come forward.
Point of information,
Yes,
we amended the statute so he could speak.
in first
I'm
open,
not a president, though.
that's fine.
Well, I mean, regardless.
Good point. It should be on.
Okay, hey y'all, I'm Tyler Carlgren. I started out this year in Senate, so some of you might recognize me. After joining Senate, I realized how much time commitment it is, and I could not do this and a design team, so I left. But I'm back here today to talk about academic competition team funding. I'll keep it brief because I hear these meetings are long these days. I'll speak to the College of Engineering specifically, but my point is more broadly to all ACTs. In the College of Engineering in 2023, they allocated $53,000 to all organizations in the college, and that's 16 different engineering organizations. And then 11 out of the 28 ACTs that applied for funding through SGA this year were in the College of Engineering, and that's broken up from the $90,000 that the SGA gives to ACTs, and that's really just not enough to continue to support the current ACTs as well as new organizations that are up and coming. As a part of the K-State Next Gen K-State mission, they list 10 imperatives, and I'll quote the third one now. We will provide every degree-seeking student with applied learning experiences before they graduate, fulfilling our commitment to prepare students for life beyond K-State starting early in their college career. So for many of you, you get that applied learning through SGA here in Senate, but for people in engineering, often they find that design teams or different organizations are how they can get that applied learning experience. So it's important to continue to fund that, both through colleges and SGA. And then for the ACT funding through SGA, I think one thing that we need to change is define criteria for how that's allocated. Currently, there's 0 criteria listed, so it's difficult for teams to figure out what they need to do in order to get more funding through SGA. So I think moving forward, I would like to work with senators to improve funding both through SGA and through different colleges.
Are there any questions? Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, what do these ACTs do to secure other non-student dollar sources of funding?
Yeah, so as a member of PowerCat Motorsports, I can speak to that directly. So we work with different companies to secure sponsorships, but it is difficult. It takes a lot of time to work through those sponsorships, which takes away from our time actually participating in the design team. So seeking funding opportunities like this are important as well. But corporate sponsors.
Senator Shirkey.
I have a point of information, which is that it can often be very challenging, especially for smaller student organizations, to secure corporate support for their own things. For example, you can go to some...
Senator Shirkey, this is time for questions to the speaker.
Point of information.
Not granted. Any other questions? Senator Glasscock.
Are there any criteria that you believe would be good for judging teams for funding?
Yeah. I think it would be important to define it with a few criteria. I think it should definitely follow what SGA's goals are for student organizations. So I'm definitely not an expert, but I think in terms of like team size, success at competition, history of the team, maybe effort they've put in to try to reach other like sponsorship opportunities.
Senator Zacko.
Going off of a previous senator's question, have you approached your dean and asked for funding, increased funding for these teams, and especially for certain competitions that you, like the competitors, can't cover themselves?
Yeah, so we work with like the dean very closely. One specific big hit to the College of Engineering recently is BNSF was a large sponsor, so they gave like $35,000 a year to academic teams, but that ended this year abruptly. We found out in like September or October. So that was like a challenge going into this year of funding, and like moving forward, it will continue to be a challenge. But yeah, definitely working. And like I said, I want to work with SGA and like also get messages to like deans, especially of like engineering and ag, where a lot of those teams are.
Caucus Leader Kidd.
Yeah, I have 2 questions for you. First question, is Mackenzie Carlgren your sister?
No, probably distantly related.
Okay, haha, okay, cool. Second question, more important question. With the College of Engineering charging the per credit hour like enhancement fee, does any of that pool of money go towards academic competition teams?
I am not for sure, but as far as I'm aware, it goes just toward like resources like the computers and like 3D printers like supplied in the engineering building, but not directly to teams.
Okay.
But I would need to double check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Shirkey.
So, as a senator for engineering, I'm certainly, aware of the attempts that we all face to secure independent funding. But SGA does not serve only the College of Engineering. Why is it in the interest of non-engineering members of this government to support organizations like yours that do not directly benefit their voters?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's definitely academic competition teams located in other colleges as well. It's not just engineering. I think academic competition teams represent the university as a whole well when they compete well at competition. And to be honest, like some of them are like kind of flashy and like look good on ads too. So it's definitely in the interest of like recruiting future K-Staters and then overall just like promoting that sense of like hands-on activity. Also on our team, it's not just engineers on the team. We have business majors, majors in architecture, majors in arts and sciences. So it's not just engineers on the teams, even though we're located in the College of Engineering.
Thank you.
Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, just out of my curiosity, with your PowerCat Motorsports, right?
Yeah.
What competitions have you guys gone to this year and how have you performed?
Yeah, so we attend 2 competitions.
Time for questions has expired.
Perfect. Senator Shirkey.
I move to extend the time for questions by 1 minute.
Any objections? Time for questions will be extended by 1 minute.
Yeah, so us specifically, our main competition is in May, conveniently during finals week. So that's still coming up. But last year we placed 10th out of 120 teams. So that's our best place in team history. So number 10 in all of North and South America. And then we also host a competition in Manhattan called Formula We with about 10 Midwest teams. So we've done that for 2 years. Our goal in the next few years is to make that a public event that anyone in the community can attend. And we won that as well.
Any further questions for the speaker?
All right. Thank you very much.
Are there any further first open period speakers? Okay, with that, we'll move into approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed earlier this afternoon along with the legislation tracking information. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Senator Shirkey.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Are there any objections? The minutes will stand approved. Next is announcements. So a couple of things. On Thursday, March 13th, so next Thursday right before Senate, starting at 6 to 7, though I have on some credible information, we may be starting Senate a little bit later. Information is to be coming. The finalists for the Request for Proposals initiative for the outdoor spaces will present here in Wildcat Chamber. This event's open to all students, faculty, and staff. We'll have some light hors d'oeuvres. So be sure to attend, invite any of your friends, and enjoy the refreshments and ask lots of questions to the RFP candidates. Second, proxies. If you're going to be absent from Student Senate, please fill out the proxy form. Even if you aren't sure, your absence will be excused. Tonight, our proxies are Shirkey for Ramirez, Griffith for Moltz, Jonak for Glanville, Lilly for Uphouse, Sushanik for Hoffman, Otto for Phillips, and Holmes for Ediger. If you'll be physically absent from Student Senate but would like to attend via Zoom, just as we've had 5 to 6 people do today, please fill out the Student Senate Zoom request form. Speaker Questa typically, though today myself, will review the requests based upon the Student Senate attendance policy. If you want to give props to someone in Student Senate, fill out the Senate shout-out form, and hopefully interim Speaker Strunk will have access to the form and be able to read those during second open period at the end of our meeting. The SGA Member of the Week is Bentley Talbert. Bentley has done an excellent job planning Big 12 on the Hill. Thank you, Bentley, for your hard work and dedication. We have the upcoming events calendar where the student Allocations Committee will be meeting at 7 p.m. on Sunday. The Diversity or will not be. Well, you'll have to still refer legislation back to us at some point, so we'll be looking forward to that. The Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee will be meeting at 6 p.m. on Monday. The Student Services Fee Committee will be meeting at 5:30 p.m. on Monday. The Senate Oversight Committee will be meeting at 7:30 p.m. on Monday. The Tuition Enhancements Committee will be meeting at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. The Senate Operations Committee will be meeting at 5:30 on Tuesday. And if the Senate Executive Committee decides to meet for a second time this semester, they'll be meeting at 7 p.m. on Tuesday as well, before our final Student Senate of the term on Thursday at 7 or 7:30, depending on when the RFP presentations are completed. And finally, our quote of the week is, "A man is not finished when he is defeated. He is finished when he quits," by Richard Milhouse Nixon. With that, we'll move into commendations. Resolution 2425-67. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 67? Senator Otto.
I move to consider Resolution 67.
Second.
Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 67, commendation to Tau Beta Pi Kansas Gamma, authors Philip Shirky, sponsors Jordan Kramer. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Associations should recognize student organizations that enhance the university's prestige and support the student body, especially when they're distinguished by relevant national orgs. The Kansas Gamma chapter of the Tau Beta Pi Engineering Honor Society received 3 awards by the Tau Beta Pi National Committee for their outstanding efforts over the past year. The R.C. Matthews Outstanding Chapter Awards, given to the chapter which distinguishes itself as most outstanding through, quote, high-grade work in both routine and special affairs, end quote, and is the Tau Beta Pi Association's most prestigious and selective chapter award. Out of 257 active Tau Beta Pi chapters, Kansas Gamma was one of 2 chapters to receive an honorable mention for this award. Chapter Project Awards are given to a handful of chapters nationwide who conduct projects of exceptional quality throughout the year. Kansas Gamma was included in the 8 chapters awarded a Chapter Project Award last year, in large part due to their detailed planning and hosting of the first annual engineering formal, although they submitted 58 other project reports ranging from highway cleanups to their annual KS Hill whitewashing and upkeeping project. Lastly, Chapter Excellence Awards are awarded to chapters which meet strict criteria for initiation, membership, operations, finances, convention, programs, and advisors. And of the 257 active Tau Beta Pi chapters, Kansas Gamma was one of 20 to receive this award. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends the Tau Beta Pi Kansas Gamma chapter for its national leadership in engineering and community service. Upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Kansas Gamma President Nicholas Divelbus, Kansas Gamma Advisor Professor Paul Snyder, Associate Dean for Academic and Administrative Affairs for the Carl R. Rice College of Engineering, Dr. Keith Hone, Leroy C. and Aileen Paisley, Chair and Dean of the Carl R. Rice College of Engineering, Dr. Matt O'Keefe, Provost and Executive Vice President Dr. Jesse Perez-Mendez, and University President Dr. Richard H. Linton. Thank you so much, Ops Director, for fixing the Section 2 reference of copies of resolution.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, Interim Chair Blood.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? With that, is there a motion to approve Resolution 67? Senator Otto.
I move to approve Resolution 67 unanimously.
Second.
Are there any objections? It will stand approved.
Thank you.
Next is Resolution 2425-67, commendation to Josh is all in fantasy football team. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 68? Caucus Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Resolution 68.
Second.
Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 2425-68, commendation to the Josh is all in fantasy football team, authors Brandon Kermer. Whereas during the National Football League NFL regular season, members of Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSUSJ, formed an NFL Fantasy Football League. 8 members of KSUSJ participated in the league, whereas the team with the most points for was the team Josh is all in, coached by Senator Jacob Hoffman. Whereas Josh Zollin scored 1,678 points for, with a record of 9-5 under the guidance of a fantastic coach. Whereas the team with the least points for was Unnecessary Roughness, coached by caucus leader and elections commissioner Brandon Kermer. Whereas Unnecessary Roughness scored 1,626.
We don't.
Chair Lee.
Did you go in person? Oh. That's fire.
Oh my god.
No, this year we only had one ticket. One.
Please continue.
Whereas Unnecessary Roughness scored 1,626 points for, with a whopping 1,862 points against, with a record of 5-9. Whereas it was a victorious win for Coach Hoffman, an unbelievably embarrassing defeat for Elections Commissioner Kermer. And whereas Elections Commissioner Kermer should stick to designing buildings and should leave it to Senator Hoffman to bring home the wins from here on out. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU-SJ, congratulates Jacob Hoffman on winning the 2024 KSU-SJ Fantasy Football League. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the participants of the 2024 KSU-SJ Fantasy Football League, being Senator Jacob Hoffman, Student Services Fee Chair Samantha Suchanek, Parliamentarian Brian Blood, Attorney General Andrew Navarro, Strategic Oversight Committee Chair Anna Koch, Senator Vivian Griffith, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee Chair Andrew Lee, and Elections Commissioner Brandon Kermer.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author, Senator Griffith?
Are the rumors true? Did you in fact draft Patrick Mahomes as a first-round pick?
Yeah, but I do that in all my leagues, so this is not the first time I've done that.
Follow up?
Yeah.
Granted.
Looking back at the season retrospectively, would you say that was a mistake?
I wouldn't say it was a mistake. It was just the fact that I forgot to change my players for like 5 weeks in a row there. So.
Senator Shirky.
Is Hoffman spelled right?
It's one of.
Okay. Wanted to make sure.
Are there any further questions or corrections for Elections Commissioner Kermer? With that, is there a motion to approve Resolution 68? Caucus Leader Black.
I move to approve Resolution 68 unanimously.
Second.
Are there any objections? Resolution 68 will stand approved. Moving into approval of appointments, we have Resolution 242569, approval of new student senator. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 69? Senator Otto.
I move to consider resolution 69.
Second.
Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 242569, approval of new student senator. Authors Joseph Lilly, sponsors Senate Operations Committee, Carson Escuesta. Whereas there are currently 2 vacancies for the position of student senator for the graduate school, and whereas the list of candidates from the 2024 KSU-SJ election has been exhausted, and whereas Eli Mary Gakaisen, was nominated by the graduate school caucus in its capacity to fill the vacancy, be it resolved that Section 1, the following individual be approved as a student senator for the graduate school, Eli Marie Gakaisen.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 69? Senator Shirky.
I move to approve Resolution 69 unanimously.
Second.
Are there any objections? Resolution 69 will stand approved. Will Senator Goxson please come forward to be sworn in? Are they here? Chair Lilly.
They said they would be here last week.
All right, well, I apologize to the Chancellor of the Student Tribunal for coming here to be able to swear this person in, but it appears we'll not be needing their services today, so thank you very much. Moving on, just for reference there, the Chancellor of the Student Tribunal can swear any member of any branch in. Only the branch heads can swear someone in for their specific branch, or someone authorized by law to swear someone in, such as a judge or a notary public. So that's why we had them here today. So thank you very much. With that, we'll move into approval of the appointments, we'll move into committee reports. So are there any committee chairs who would like to give a report tonight? Seeing none, are there any directors who would like to give a report tonight? Elections Commissioner Kermer.
I'm not going to speak too much because I have my elections report coming here in a couple weeks. But you probably are aware now that results are released. So those are out there on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. The full list is on the elections website. I just want to give a brief thank you to Wildcat 91.9 for announcing the results tonight at 6 p.m. Same thing with Student Creative Services for all the work in helping promote the elections this year. The Elections Promotion Commission for handing out those special I voted stickers earlier this week. So that was a fantastic initiative that we took on this year. So I won't answer too many questions about specific things, but look for that in the report coming in a few weeks.
Are there any questions for Elections Commissioner Kermer? Interim Parliamentarian Koch.
I do have a point of information. Sorry guys, I'm not used to this mic. I do have some I voted stickers still sitting in my car. So if you guys want any of them, please come see me after. We want to get rid of them, so please take some.
Are there any further questions for Elections Commissioner Kermer? Seeing none, we'll move on into approval of the allocations. We have Bill 242565 FY 2025 student allocation to the Asian American Student Union. They requested $1,050. They were recommended $1,050. We have Bill 242566 FY 2025 student allocation to the American Society of Civil Engineers. They were recommended $17,030.17. Or they were requested $17,030.17. They were recommended $1,500. We have Bill 242567 FY 2025 student allocation to Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity. They requested $750. They were recommended $750. And we have Bill 242568 FY 2025 student allocation to Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. They requested $1,304 and were recommended $1,113. Is there a motion to approve the allocations? Senator Shirkey.
I move to approve the allocations unanimously.
Second.
Are there any objections? The allocations will stand approved. With that, we'll move into final action. So first up, we have Bill 242569, amendments to the SGA statutes regarding legislation authorship, the KSU SGA statutes regarding legislation authorship, which was referred favorably from the Senate Operations Committee 4 to 1 to 1. Will the author please come forward? Were there any changes made in committee?
Yes. Give me just a second. I feel like every time I'm up here, I have to do this. Okay. We changed it such that at the very end, oh, and it's not italicized. I don't know that this is the correct version. It's supposed to be, they cannot be an additional sponsor of legislation that's been sponsored by a committee or caucus of which they are a member.
That'd be on line 43.
Yep.
After the fourth word committee, the words or a caucus will be inserted. Any other changes? Senator Glasscock.
Point of information, were lines 24 and 25 changed so that in the order the authors may choose was removed?
No, that was not removed.
Okay, with that, you have first rights to debate.
There are certain types of legislation that require a committee sponsor or author them. Actually, there are numerous types, and occasionally that committee will sit together and work as a whole to write that document. And I think that it would be more beneficial to this body if the committee could author as a committee legislation rather than having someone in the committee author it and then the committee just sponsors it.
With that, was speeches in the positive. Are there any speeches in the negative? I have one. So I want to provide a bit of context on this authorship and sponsorship part, because 3 years ago when I was a student senator, we didn't have an author line and a sponsor line. We just had a byline. And what would happen is a couple people in the committee would spend a couple hours afterwards writing legislation. Then it would go to the committee. And then all of a sudden it would say sponsored by the Student Services Fee Committee or sponsored by the Senate Operations Committee, or insert, or more aptly even for all of our allocations, sponsored by the Student Allocations Committee, or at the time travel allocations are on campus. And the people who actually spent the majority of the time working on it were unknown. Who actually wrote this bill? All we know is we have a byline. So we changed it to allow authors who are actually the people writing a bill, and then the sponsors, which a committee can do, right? They can vote together to sponsor a bill, putting their full weight behind it, but the people who actually authored it can be highlighted. Now, I understand that there's a few relics because of that, right, where we've used the word sponsor or used the word introduced at different times, especially related to the Senate Operations Committee. I mean, we heard at the banquet that's been around even since Amy Button Renz was a student senator and ran for student body president. Some things as an institution, when we're a volunteer organization, slip through the cracks, and we should change them. But this is not what is doing that. We could have changed it to change it from the Senate Operations Committee authoring the approval and validation of the elections, but that's not what the authors of this bill did. No, they decided to change the definition of author and sponsorship and strip, by and large, the people who are typically writing legislation from the ability to have that recognized. And I don't think that's fair. If a committee in total, in full, all 12 plus members of them are actively contributing to the actual writing, put all of their names down. They actively contributed and still have the committee sponsor it. I don't see a problem with that, but I don't see why a committee should be authoring legislation. Let them sponsor it. Let the committee, the institution that it represents, sponsor it, and let the people who actually wrote it, put pen to paper, put fingers to keys, actually write it. And so I suggest you vote this down. We keep everything as it is. I do like some of the changes with caucuses, but again, I think overall this addresses a point that doesn't need to be fixed. And so I encourage you to vote no. With that, are there speeches in the positive? Chair Lilly.
We should have just recorded the ops meeting. Basically my argument to that would be that if the entire committee did not write it, this does not preclude you from putting the specific people that did write it. The committee cannot require its name go in the author's line. And it also, bringing up the byline, committees, can I ask you a question, or will you correct me if I say something wrong? Is probably better.
I'd love to.
I bet. Committees used to be able to go on the byline, which to me is no different than the author line, so why wouldn't they be able to now?
With that, are there any speeches in the negative? Chair Strunk, interim secretary.
I'm a man of many things. But all that aside, basically my only argument here would be that for future purposes, no, you're good. But no, for future purposes, like, if somebody's trying to like look back and see who wrote something, I think then you have to do some digging into like the committee rosters to find out, who was on the committee, at that time. So I just think it would be good to keep, who's actually writing it just on the authorship line.
With that, are there any speeches in the positive? Are there any speeches in the negative? And is there any further debate at all? So with that, we'll go into a roll call vote on Bill 242569. Interim Secretary Strunk, please take it away.
All right, Alvarez. Bailey.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Blood.
No.
Bolton. Byers. Casement. Koch.
Yes.
Cox. Ediger.
Pass by proxy.
Erickson.
No.
George. Senator George. Giefer.
Yes.
Glanville.
No.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Hassan Shakib. Hoffman.
Yes by proxy.
Holmes.
Yes.
Holzmeister.
No.
Jacobson.
No.
Jonak.
Yes.
Carton. Kidd.
No.
Kermer.
Passed.
Kramer.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Lilly.
Yes.
McCullough. Moltz.
Yes by proxy.
Morris.
No.
Nagai Velasquez.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Owen.
No.
Phillips.
Yes by proxy.
Polanco. Prey.
Abstain.
Rabi.
Yes.
Rafferty.
He said yes.
Rafferty says yes in the chat.
Richenberg.
No.
Ramirez.
Abstain by proxy.
Shah Savari.
Yes.
Shirky.
Yes.
Sides. Stewart.
Pass.
Me, yes. Or wait, no, sorry. C. Shanik.
Yes.
Uphouse.
Yes, my property, sorry.
Very befitting of your plaque. And then Zacho.
No. George said yes.
George said yes. All right, going back to the passes. Black.
Yes.
Ediger.
Abstain.
Kermer. And Stewart.
Yes.
All right. We have 24 in the affirmative, 11 in the negative, and 4 abstaining.
So Bill 242569 will pass. With that, we'll move on to final action on Bill 242571, FY 2628 addition of CATS covered student services fee allocation. Will the author please come forward? This was referred favorably from the Student Services Fee Committee 8-0 to 0.
talk a lot about the legacy that students before us have left, and I think right now we have a really great opportunity to act upon that. You might not know that Cats Cupboard was actually started by student government, by student senators as a student initiative. They started in the basement of Fairchild Hall back in FY17, and it's been funded by students in some measure since then. It is run by student volunteers for the most part and based on community donations. Last year, they were presenting to student services fee, and that presentation left quite a bit to be desired, if I'm being honest. But we gave them a one-time allocation and said, come back with a year's worth of data in your new location, and we will reconsider this request. The committee has spent many weeks debating allocating this money to Cats Cupboard because it is a very big decision to add a new entity to the fee, but I think we have a great honor of getting to do that. We have a great honor to get to serve and feed the students here at K-State, and to put our student service fee dollars towards making sure that students are not going hungry and are able to focus on their schoolwork and are able to be the best person that they can be because of the work we do here in this room. Sometimes it feels like the work we do might be kind of frou-frou, unimportant, changing internal governing docs. This work right here is extremely important and will greatly affect people's lives. So I urge you to vote yes on this allocation.
With that, that was speeches in the positive. Are there any speeches in the negative on Bill 71? Are there any further speeches in the positive? Senator Shirkey.
This is a problem that university administration or the city should be handling. But there are a lot of challenges in doing that. And with, the work that they already do, there's still an area for student government to take its own level of involvement. I don't know how many people in this room have used Cats Cupboard themselves or have met someone else who has. But I do know that I know several people that would be in a far worse position and would be far less likely to get out of K-State with the future that they're working so hard for without this program. Out of all the services that student government and administration and the city work very hard to provide for our students, very few are as impactful or as justifiable as an expenditure of an elected government than this. And I could not consider probably any addition to the student services fee more justified than this. So I urge you all to vote in favor of the legislation. Thank you.
With that, that was speeches in the positive. Are there any further speeches in the negative? Are there any further speeches in the positive? And are there any further speeches at all? With that, we'll go into a roll call vote on Bill 242571. Interim Secretary Strunk, please take it away.
All right. Alvarez. Bailey.
Pass.
Black.
Yes.
Blood.
Yes.
Byers. Casement. Cope.
Yes.
Cox. Ediger.
Oh, yes, by proxy.
Erickson.
Yes.
George. Giefer.
No.
Glanville.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Hassan Shakib. Hoffman.
Yes, by proxy.
Holmes.
Yes.
Holzmeister.
Pass.
Jacobson.
No.
Janak.
Yes.
Carton. Kidd.
Yes.
Kermer.
Pass.
Kramer.
Yes.
Lee.
Strongly yes.
Lilly.
Yes.
McCullough. Moltz,
Yes, by proxy.
Morris,
Yes.
Nagai Velasquez,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes, by proxy.
Palenko, Prey,
Yes.
Rabi,
Yes.
Rafferty,
Yes.
Richenberg,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes by proxy.
Shasavari,
Yes.
Shirky,
Yes.
Sides, Stewart,
Yes.
Sushanik,
Yes.
Uphouse,
Yes by proxy.
Zacko.
Pass.
Going back to the passes, Bailey,
Yes.
Holzmeister, Holzmeister,
No.
Kermer,
Yes.
and Zacko.
No.
All right. Bill 71 will pass on a vote of 34 to 4 to 0.
Okay. Next, we'll move into Bill 242572, amendments to the KSU SGA Constitution regarding expulsions. Will the author please come forward?
Grind.
Senator Griffith.
I move to suspend the rules and go into final action on Resolution 65 out of order.
That does not require a motion to suspend the rules, but that is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
You said Resolution 65?
Yes, the surplus fund for capital.
Okay. Are there any objections on considering Resolution 65 out of order? With that, will the author of Resolution 65, allocation to the Student General Surplus Funds for Cats Cupboard, please come forward. This was referred favorably from the Student Services Committee, 8-0 to 0. Were there any changes made in committee? If there were, they're definitely not reflected in the agenda.
No.
Perfect. With that, you have first rights to debate.
For anyone who doesn't know, I actually served as the tuition enhancements chair in my last term, and during my time as that chair, we got to hear a presentation and actually make an allocation of EOF funds to Cats Cupboard to fund student worker salaries. However, we are not allowed to double dip in SGA, so if you receive funds from us in one spot, you cannot receive funds from another location, meaning that because we just voted to approve Cats Cupboard to receive student service fee dollars, they are no longer eligible for those EOF funds. They have taken this to account, though, and they do have a grant. That grant is not set to be released for another year, so this allocation out of reserves will cover up the deficit made by EOF being pulled and will allow them to keep funding these student salaries for the next year until their grant kicks into place. So this really just ensures that they can have a continuance of operation at the level they're currently operating at, and that students on campus won't lose their jobs at Cats Cupboard.
With that, that was debate in the positive. Is there any debate in the negative? Is there any debate in the positive? Cox Leader Black.
Okay, I will be filling in for our basic needs director, Adeline Easter. She was unable to attend tonight, but I want to start with some of my own words. This year on the Student Service Fee Committee, we received a very large increase in our tuition dollars. And that means that we have more money to allocate due to the tuition increases, meaning that giving out all of this extra money isn't going to have any effect on the amount students pay to come to school here. But that's great and all. But the thought that the committee put on past that was we did a lot of thinking about birth rate statistics and stuff like that as well to see kind of what we could project the fee to do in the next 5 to 10 years as well. And a lot of these things were taken into consideration when it came with Cat's Cupboard, and that's why we decided to go with a lot of the numbers we did. We also had the situation this year of reviewing all of the big three entities, the Union, the REC, and Lafine, which take up the overwhelming majority of the student service fee. So we feel like we had a realist, like a very holistic look at what the fee was going to do in the future. And that's why I can say that we're pretty confident that we can give them this money without like it making students have to pay more. But however, this is where Adelaine's words come in. 43.6% of K-State students have reported themselves to be food insecure. This may just seem like a statistic, but I really want to push across the point that this affects so much of our student population. Food insecurity is a huge issue across all higher education institutions in the nation due to things like rising costs of living and especially college. Since its creation in 2017, Cat's Cupboard has lived out its mission of providing K-Staters with access to nutritious, culturally appropriate food and support through initiatives that promote health, success, well-being, and food secure future. Now, with this specific bill up here and the funding, it serves a very specific purpose, to cover up 1 year of funding. Without it, it would really probably hinder Cat's Cupboard's ability to operate for the next year. The reason we're pulling out of reserves is just simply to make sure that like it all kind of lines up with the contract down the road. And this money that we will be pulling out of reserves, we have budgeted to put back in with our surplus this year and like an under allocation of funds. So it's really not going to have any effect on the reserve dollars as well. So I encourage you to vote yes on this to give them just that little bit of boost that they really need to step up and establish themselves as they are still a newer institution here.
With that, that was a speech in the positive. Is there any debate in the negative? Is there any debate in the positive? Is there Chair Sushanik?
Yeah, I just wanted to come back up to add some clarity to some things. This year, we were able to bring in a $1.3 million surplus in SSF due to the fact that it is a floating fee, meaning that we were cleared to allocate out $1.1 million, and we are projected to see that remaining pretty steady over the next 2 to 3 fiscal years. We spent a lot of time in committee talking about, as previous speaker mentioned, birth rate statistics, what enrollment's going to look like coming with the enrollment cliff in a few years, and how we can avoid putting Cat's Cupboard on the fee without increasing the price of tuition for students at all. So I just want to be really clear that there is no fee increase and there's no tuition increase going to be associated with putting Cat's Cupboard on the fee for at least the next 3 years. And at that point, inflation metrics will probably need an increase.
With that, that was debate in the positive. Is there any debate in the negative? Is there any debate in the positive? Is there any further debate at all? With that, we'll move into a hand vote on resolution 65. All those in favor, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All those opposed, same sign. Motion will pass by hand vote. With that, we'll move back to Bill 242572, Amendment to the KSU-SJA Constitution regarding expulsions, referred favorably from the Senate Operations Committee 6-0. Will the author please come forward? Were there any changes in committee?
Yes. We added in that including via a write-in campaign like we mentioned in the last meeting.
Okay, with that, you have first rights to debate.
Yeah, so this bill ensures that student government maintains integrity, accountability, and respect for the democratic process. If a senator was expelled in the previous term, it was probably due to failure to uphold responsibilities of the position. allowing them to immediately run again undermines the consequences of their expulsion and weakens the credibility of student governance. This bill does not permanently bar anyone from serving. It simply enforces a one-term cooling off period, encouraging candidates to demonstrate personal growth before seeking re-election. In a way, this will also motivate current sitting senators to attend meetings due to the consequence to come if they don't. By upholding standards of responsibility and professionalism, this bill strengthens the student governance legitimacy and ensures that Senate seats are held by those who respect their duty to represent the student body.
With that, there was a speech in the positive. Is there any debate in the negative? Senator Caucus Leader Holzmeister.
Good evening. Tonight I stand before you to oppose this resolution because I have lived through the consequences close. Just a few weeks ago, I might have supported this amendment, believing it to be a measure of accountability. However, after experiencing an expulsion, hearing firsthand, I cannot in good conscience endorse a policy that restricts a student's ability to run for re-election without due consideration of circumstances surrounding their removal. At its core, elections are about choice. Elections ensure that people, not a committee, decide who represents them. This amendment seeks to strip away that choice. By barring expelled members from running for office in the following term, we are not protecting democracy, we are undermining it. Students who are removed should still have the opportunity to present their case to the electorate. If they are truly unfit to serve, the voters will make that decision themselves. 2 weeks ago, I found myself unexpectedly summoned for an expulsion hearing. Despite submitting what I thought to be accurate absentee and proxy forms, and despite my absences stemming from non-reoccurring extracurricular obligations, what struck me most was the timing Senate Operations was pursuing expulsions with only 2 weeks left in the term. This raised a critical question. Was this about accountability or was it a shakedown? Seeking clarity, I confirmed with officials that an expulsion would not prevent me from running again. Once I shared this information with the committee chair, the attempt to remove me was dismissed after I was grilled by the committee. Yet, in a striking coincidence, just an hour later, Senate Operations introduced this amendment, one that would ensure any expelled senator would not run for re-election. While they claim this amendment is in response to a previous case, I believe my experience played a role in this sudden push for change. Had this rule been in place during my hearing, it would have incentivized committee members and members of the Senate who have dissenting opinions to possibly expel me. This is a dangerous precedent. This is not how elections should work. Elections should be competitive enough that ineffective candidates cannot win, not controlled by a select group through procedural maneuvering. Unfortunately, this past year, we had not competitive elections, and people that won didn't end up showing up. But this year we had a lot more competitive race, which hopefully weeded out some of those bad choices. I urge you to vote no. Do not let a flawed process become permanent policy. Do not let student government become a tool of exclusion. Trust the voters.
With that, that was debate in the negative. Is there debate in the positive? Chair most likely to forget to vote for their proxy.
I'm not even really going to argue about the bill. I'm kind of just going to talk about the expulsions process. So to start off with the impeachment process, if you're impeached, you are ineligible for office for 1 year. That is a precedent that has already been set, that exists. As far as expulsions, you get referred for an expulsion, as we've seen, to the Senate by the Senate Operations Committee, and Senate votes on it. It is not a committee making some unilateral decision. As far as the timing of the introduction of this resolution, We considered the expulsions that week first for the convenience of the people that were in consideration. This resolution was in days before. So this is not in response to anything. And additionally, this does not and cannot preclude senators who ran in this election from taking office. This was specifically written, and it was a major concern of the committee, such that this does not affect this election or any of the expulsions we have done, because we wanted no chance of that interfering with the purpose behind this bill, which is to set a better precedent going forward that's more in line with our other processes.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there further debate in the negative? Is there further debate in the positive? Senator Shirkey.
The case here is super simple. In the elections code and the status quo, we do have procedures for disqualification of candidates, and those procedures do carry with them the risk of becoming ineligible to file for office in the next term. We have rules for a reason, and in the event that a person is expelled for violating those rules, it is not reasonable to allow them to continue to risk misusing the people's trust in a future elective cycle. As long as we're going to allow the election system to have disqualification as an option, we should also have it as an option here. And if, when we really have the chance to think about it right now, we decide no, it's not reasonable for members of the Student Senate to be prohibited from holding office because it would be anti-democratic. If that's the position the Senate wants to take, it can do so. And that would be followed by an elections reform to the same extent. But I don't think that would be appropriate. I think it's appropriate to have consequences for violating our rules. We have plenty of procedures in the status quo, a committee followed by Senate review to ensure that bad actors do not remove good senators. Those procedures have worked in the past year, as we've seen. They've been a bit delayed, but they have worked. And as the system is functioning, there's no reason to change it now. That is all.
With that, that was a speech in the positive. Is there any further debate in the negative? Senator Zacko.
So my biggest concern with this is that I feel that everyone's circumstances are very different. I feel like we can't apply a blanket statement to everyone. And I think because of that, I cannot in good faith support something that disqualifies expelled members from filing again, because you don't know that person's specific circumstances surrounding their reasons for absenteeism. Maybe there was a valid excuse as to why they were gone so much. That's not really for us to, I guess, decide upon. That's what the voters decide on. And that's why we have elections, to choose who we want to elect to the Senate. And I don't think it's fair for those senators to be penalized for situations that might be completely out of their control. Now, I do understand there are some circumstances where it is just a senator being absent, and in that case, sure, expulsion is the right thing, but then again, I think it's the voice of our voters that really we need to rely on, and we need to allow them that chance to refile and have the chance to be elected by their constituents, because that's how the real world works, and I think that everyone deserves a chance to, I guess, plead their case and run again. So because of that, I cannot support this, so I urge you to vote no.
With that, that was a speech in the negative. Is there any speeches in the positive? Senator Otto.
Okay, hey guys. So I'm on the Senate Operations Committee, and we have reviewed expulsions. That is true. There is absolutely no malice behind this bill. In my opinion, somebody who runs for Senate in a pretty empty caucus like education, we had 3 people running. It was pretty easy to win it. If we had something like that continue again, and somebody gets elected but never shows up, that is absolutely worse than an open seat that we could fill with somebody who is genuinely interested. And doing this, passing this resolution would bar them from running again, and that's something we got to consider. We do not want this just to become a resume booster for many, to be like, I was in Senate all 4 years, but I showed up to a total of 2 Senates, and that was to get sworn in. That is unacceptable by all means. Yeah, that's basically it.
Given that that was debate in the positive, are there any further speeches in the negative? Are there any further speeches in the positive? I'm being asked to debate, so. First, I'd like to respond to a previous speaker's opinion of this is how it works in the real world. If you're committed serious enough of a crime or even removed from office, yeah, you don't get to run again. So it's kind of important that we have similar rules, right? If we want to change the rules, we want to make the attendance policy more lenient, we want to provide more restrictions, changes, whatever, that's fine. Let's do that. Let's change that right now. But let's actually follow our rules. Let's have the rules that were implemented followed. And let's hold the people who represent our students to a higher standard. And that's what I'm asking you to do today. Now, I do want to bring another position up here too, given that this is a constitutional amendment. I'm going to say it again while I'm chair because this is one of the first constitutional amendments we've dealt with this year. And I think what's really important is 3/4 of all senators selected and qualified. So not just the ones that are here, but if you abstain from this vote, if you're a faculty rep and you abstain from this vote, all of those count as a no vote, right? And so we have to have 3/4. So we have 48 senators selected and qualified. That results in 36 people having to vote yes today on this bill for it to count, pass, and be implemented as long as it's signed by the student body president. And so I just want to stress the gravity of you voting yes, not passing, not abstaining, not voting no, because we want to hold the people who are running for office and holding this office of student senator accountable and make sure that they are representing students to the fullest ability and are here doing that each and every week. And so that's the debate I was asked to give, and I'm going to give it. With that, are there any speeches in the negative? Seeing none, are there any further speeches in the positive? Caucus Leader Black.
Real packed house tonight. I could go, for a little bit, I could go both ways on this bill because I do think that your issues from one year maybe shouldn't necessarily follow you to the next year. But then I think about elections that just happened, and I was one of few colleges that actually had a full list of candidates, and I think we should be doing more for our students. I think that there are plenty of safeguards for keeping good senators from being expelled, but there are not any safeguards from keeping people who are not going to be dedicated, who are not going to be committed, who are not going to show up every Thursday night, who are not going to show up to those committee meetings, who are not going to do good things for the students and for this university. There's nothing stopping people, there's nothing stopping people from not fulfilling their obligations. I think the work we do here is important. I've spent a lot of time in the union this year, and there are a lot of people who haven't, and they hold the same seat, same position as me, as you guys here, and yet I don't see them here. And while I just want to stress the importance of let's ask more of ourselves. Let's do more for our students. Let's show up to our meetings, and let's have people who are going to show up for meetings on the ballot.
With that was a speech in the positive. Are there any further speeches in the negative? Are there any further speeches in the positive? And is there any further debate at all? Okay, seeing none, I again just want to reiterate the rules on constitutional amendments. And so we have 48 student senators who are selected and qualified, including a representative from Faculty Senate that counts towards that total. 36 yes votes are required for a constitutional amendment to pass, as it is a 3/4 majority. So any noes or abstentions do not count towards that. Senator Griffith.
What's our head count?
In person today, we have enough for it to pass, including proxies. Proxies do count towards that. Are there any other questions that I can answer regarding the votes for constitutional amendments? Otherwise, it'll be a voice vote, a roll call vote similar to what we've done on all our other bills today. Okay, with that, Interim Secretary Strunk, please take it away.
Alvarez.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Blood.
Pass.
Coe.
Yes.
Ediger.
Yes, by proxy.
Erickson.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Giefer. Glanville.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes, by proxy.
Holmes.
Yes.
Holzmeister.
No.
Jacobson.
No.
Jonak.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes.
Kermer.
Yes.
Kramer.
Yes.
Lee.
No.
Lilly.
Yes.
Moltz.
Oh, yes, by proxy.
Morris.
Yes.
Nagai Velasquez.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Owen.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes, by proxy.
Prey.
Yes.
Rabi.
Yes.
Rafferty.
Yes.
Richenberg.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Yes, by proxy.
Shasavari.
Yes.
Shirky.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Sushanik.
Yes.
Uphouse.
Yes, by proxy.
Zacko.
No.
Interim Chair Blood.
No.
34 yes, 6 no, 0 abstention.
So that constitutional amendment will fail, and we will move into Bill 242573, amendments to the KSU-SGA statutes to establish new student services fee protocols. Was referred favorably from the Student Services Committee 8 to 0 to 0. Author is already here. Were any changes made in committee?
No.
All right, you have first rights to debate.
I feel like this bill is pretty self-explanatory. We have seen several times, at least in the past 3 years, of an agency looking to apply to join the fee. It's really nice to have some spelled out protocol for the chair to know what's going on, have some instructions, have a roadmap for something that happens so infrequently that you can't really rely on precedent or institutional knowledge. And it's also nice when somebody, as a chair, comes to you and says, hey, I'd like some fee dollars. How does that process work? Having a really solid, concrete answer to give them and some requirements that they need to meet is really important. But I think really the most important thing that this will establish is that 3-year probationary period. The way SSF contracts work is they are funded on a 3-year contract cycle. This will ensure that they are coming back to the committee with a presentation every year of the first 3 year of their contract to make sure that they don't need an increase or a decrease, and just generally to check in that we were not setting it and forgetting it. It'll really help with fiscal responsibility and student awareness.
With that, that was debate in the positive on Bill 73. Is there any debate in the negative? Is there any debate in the positive? And is there any debate at all? With that, we'll move into a roll call vote on Bill 73. Interim Secretary Strunk will take it away.
Alvarez.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Blood.
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
Ediger,
Yes, by proxy.
Erickson,
Yes.
George, Geether,
Yes.
Glanville,
Yes.
Glasscock, Griffith,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes, by proxy.
Holmes,
Yes.
Holzmeister,
Pass.
Jacobson,
Pass.
Jonak,
Yes.
Kidd,
Pass.
Kermer,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Lee, Lilly,
Yes.
Moltz,
Yes, by proxy.
Morris,
Yes.
Nagai Velasquez,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes, by proxy.
Prey,
Yes.
Rabi,
Yes.
Rafferty,
Yes.
Richenberg,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Abstain by proxy.
Shasavari,
Yes.
Shirky,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Sushanik,
Yes.
Uphouse,
Yes, by proxy.
Zacko.
Yes.
Going back to the passes. Holzmeister,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Kidd,
Yes.
Andrew Lee,
Yes. Sorry about that.
and did I miss anybody? All right. 38 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention.
So that'll pass. With that, I'm now seeking a motion to move back into director's reports. Chair Lilly.
I move to go back into director's reports.
Second.
Second.
Is there any, are there any objections? Perfect. Are there any directors who'd like to give a report? Deputy Attorney General Albertson.
Sorry about that. I was misinformed. And you're going to learn quickly that legislative is not my forte, but judicial is, which is what we're going to talk about. So I'm here to give an update. It's the state of the judicial branch. As you know, my name is Katie Albertson. I'm the Deputy Attorney General. You guys might not know me, but yeah, I serve on the judicial branch. And then my partner is Andrew Navarro. He serves as the Attorney General. To start, I'm going to talk a little bit about our branch structure. We also have the chair of our student review board, who's Joseph Bondilio, the student tribunal, who you saw earlier, the chancellor, that's Ash Vujvik, and then our judicial advisors, Andy and Allie. And yeah, these are all of our members. They're great and amazing. We have a multiple diverse group of people, from international students, out of state, transfer, multicultural, first generation, and LGBTQ+. And they also all are from bachelor's to PhDs along various colleges. So we have a great group of people who we work with. A little bit about what exactly our branch does. So we have our student review board, who hears cases involving alleged code of conduct violations. So the code of conduct is the 18-line expectations that all students have on campus. And when those are violated, those cases come in front of our board. And then student tribunal serves to hear judicial appeals, election appeals as well, and they interpret SGA governing documents. So, yeah. We also have a third little, oh, come on, sorry. No, you're fine. Like a third little weird cousin, and that's the Parking Appeals Board, but for some reason that's what everyone seems to know us as. We don't work directly with them, but we do appoint them and select them. We have our chair, Brenna Barnes, and then 4 judges who sit on that. Oh, 5, sorry, typo on my end. But they interpret appeals and determine if they are valid. And this past year, they've actually worked really closely with the parking director to set those expectations early. And now there's a document in place at Parking Services that have a very clear-cut expectations of what appeals can be. So yeah, we're getting ahead of those. As far as cases that Student Review Board heard this year, they heard in total 56 cases. So this is from when this address was given last, which was spring of 2024 to I got the most recent numbers updated last week. So that's 56 cases in total. And as far as tribunal goes, we didn't have any with our branch this year, which is actually a good thing because that means you guys are doing your jobs correctly. So that's great. As far as the hearings breakdown goes, I'm just kind of I'm not going to read these off, but these are the breakdown of what the different cases were and what they were regarding, as well as if we heard them or if we didn't. So you can see that Student Review Board heard 3 and then heard 13, and then as well as admin hearings because those count as going through our board. In this past year, it's called every 5 years that the Code of Conduct goes through revision. So Andrew and I headed that, and we went through and we made adjustments to 2 lines of the code this year. And we're also adding a shift in the way that our branch is ran, which you guys will, I don't know if it's going to be this Senate. It might be the next Senate that's going to be able to hear that and vote on that. But those were the members who participated in that, and they were instrumental in helping us through that process, and it was not fun, but it was definitely needed. So. Lastly, applications for judicial branch are open. I don't know if anyone in here is interested, or if you have any friends interested, but there you are. There's that to let you know. This includes leadership for Deputy Attorney General, which is currently my position, Chancellor and Chair of the Tribunal. So if you know anyone interested, please come find me, come talk to me. I'd love to answer any questions. And then interviews will be the following week. I also am getting to serve as the Attorney General next year, so you guys have not seen the last of me. So there's my contact information if you have any questions, and yeah, there you go.
All right, are there any questions?
Don't zoom in. That's so scary. Stop.
Are there any questions for Deputy Attorney General Albertson? Senator Glanville.
Not a question for our Attorney General, but could you go back a slide so I could scan the QR code?
Senator Shirky.
To help us send out this QR code to the wider audience, can you email it through the SGA thing?
Yes, it's on my to-do, I promise.
Results and that sort of thing?
Yes, I will get that. They close on March 31st for everybody who, so you have a month.
Any further questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
No. We clap after first open period. We clap after commendations. We sometimes clap in second open period. Otherwise, we don't clap. Okay? Thank you. All right, we've now exhausted our final action legislative agenda. With that, we'll move into introduction of legislation. Is there a motion to consider Bill 242574? Senator Shirky.
I move to consider Bill 242574. Again.
Will the author please come forward? Chair Koch.
I move to allow the author to summarize the numbers.
Second.
Are there any objections? You'll be allowed to summarize the numbers.
Once we get to it. All right, there we go. Bill 242574, fiscal year 2026, allocation of academic competition team funds, authors Gavin Strunk, sponsors, Student Allocations Committee. Whereas the Student Allocations Committee received and reviewed the budget requests of the 28 academic competition teams below, and whereas all registered organizations were given ample opportunity and notification of their ability to submit funding requests, whereas the organizations listed below presented budget proposals to the Student Allocations Committee or submitted video requests, whereas a total of $269,047 was requested by organizations, equal to 298.94% of the total amount to allocate. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSUSGA, Statute Chapter 6, subsection 0102A2 enumerates that an academic competition team shall be a registered organization designated by the Student Allocations Committee Chair as having a vested interest in attending competitions at which such teams represent the university and its colleges to further the academic and educational status of the university as a whole. Whereas KSU SGA Statute 07-0105A1 dictates that requests for funding from the student activity fee may be made by academic competition teams fulfilling the requirements of Statute 07-0102 through the completion and submission of an annual budget request. Each academic competition team must submit a separate annual budget request to be considered for the next funding cycle. The Student Allocation Standing Committee shall review all requests from the academic competition teams and determine, by majority vote, appropriate funding for all teams. And whereas Chapter 31 of the KSU SGA statute stipulates that $90,000 shall be dispersed to academic competition teams on a yearly basis, whereas all funds must be used per funding guidelines and have been allocated accordingly, and whereas the funds requested by these groups and the funding recommendations are as follows. And then there are the 28 requested and recommended amounts. And then be it enacted that Section 1, the $90,000 be dispersed to the academic competition teams, shall be allocated as specified above. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president, these funds shall be transferred from NISA ACT reserve to the respective amount or respective accounts of each academic competition team above, or distributed upon signing of the award agreement by members of the academic competition team as required by the university.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author, Senator Shirkey?
On line 66, there's a 0 in the recommended. Could you elucidate why that happened?
Yeah, that organization failed to show up to present.
Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? Chair Lilly.
Is this one of the allocations I can move unilaterally?
No.
I move to special order resolution.
Bill 74.
What was the number?
74.
This is going well. I move to special order Bill 74.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to special order Bill 74. That is a debatable motion. So will the author, or will the maker of the motion, Chair Lilly, please come forward? You have first rights to debate.
I can't give my first rights to debate to the SAC chair, can I? Because he has speaking rights.
Yes, you cannot. Well, you can defer the first rights to debate to the SAC chair.
Do you want it? I don't. So my reasoning behind special ordering this is all of the decisions were made in one day, and the goal of that is such that you have all of the information at once to make a cohesive decision. It doesn't serve any purpose to go back into committee because it has already been mulled over in the best possible time. And additionally, getting this out sooner rather than later is just a better way to go about it.
With that, that was speeches in the positive to special order Bill 74. Are there any speeches in the negative? Are there any further speeches in the positive? And is there any further debate at all? With that, we'll move into a hand vote on whether to special order, that is move Bill 74 directly into final action tonight. All those in favors, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All those opposed, same sign. That motion will carry by a 2/3 majority. Therefore, we'll now move into final action on Bill 74. Will the author please come forward? Have any changes been made?
None that I'm aware of.
With that, you have first rights to debate.
Yeah, so guys, the committee met all day on Sunday. We heard these organizations, and the committee made these allocation recommendations to the best of their ability.
That was debate in the positive. Is there any debate in the negative? Is there any debate in the positive? And is there any debate at all? With that, Interim Secretary Strunk will move into a roll call vote on Bill 74.
Excellent. Alvarez.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Black.
Yes.
Blood.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Ediger.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
George. Giefer.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yeah.
Hoffman.
Yes by proxy.
Holmes.
Yes.
Holzmeister.
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Jonak.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes.
Kermer.
Yes.
Kramer.
Yes.
Lee. Oh, okay. Lilly.
Yes.
Moltz.
Abstain by proxy.
Morris.
Yes.
Nagai Velasquez.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Owen.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes by proxy?
Prey.
Yes.
Rabi.
Yes.
Rafferty.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Abstain by proxy.
Sorry, Richenberg.
Yes.
Shasavari.
Yes.
Shirky.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Sishanik.
Yes.
Uphouse.
Yes by proxy.
Zacko.
Yes.
All right, that'll pass 37 to 0 to 1.
All right, with that, we'll move into introduction of legislation on Bill 242575, increase the Lafine Center student services fee agreement. Will the author please come forward? Or, I'm sorry, is there a motion to consider Bill 76?
75.
75, all right, there we go. Senator Glasscock.
Move to allow the speaker to summarize the deed enacted clauses.
Second.
I move to allow the speaker to summarize.
No, that's fine. Unfortunately, I need a motion to consider first. Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Bill 75. Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, I now go to Senator Glasscock. Your motion is sustained. Is there a second on the motion? Okay. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you can summarize the be it enacted clauses.
Increase of Lafine Health Center Student Services Fee Agreement. Authors Samantha Sushanik, sponsors Student Services Fee Committee. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee voted to review the Student Health Center contract out of their regularly scheduled review cycle due to a budget surplus. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee has approved to allocate approximately $1,100,000 and approximately $1,300,000 of their FY25 surplus. Whereas the Kansas State University and Kansas State University Student Governing Association have begun to reallocate financial resources to prioritize student health and well-being. Whereas the Student Service Fee funds Lafine Health Center, which provides a nationally ranked outpatient healthcare system for the student body. Whereas Lafine Health Center provides services to students including reduced cost medication, free visits with providers, and discounted services such as physical therapy, allergy injections, etc. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee extensively reviewed the utilization, market price comparisons, financial situation, and budget reduction scenarios of Lafine Health Center. Whereas Lafine Health Center was funded at $4,600,076,415 for FY25, whereas Student Services Fee Committee is recommending a $5,051,000 allocation for FY26 and FY27, whereas $375,000 increase for FY25. Whereas this allocation partially mitigates losses due to COVID-19 budget cuts that significantly affected their operations, including limitations on staffing and hours of operation. Whereas Lafayette Health Center student services fee allocation decreased in FY23 by 18% and decreased in FY24 by 20%, causing significant budget constraints. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee voted 6-1 to 0 to recommend the following student senate to recommend to Student Senate the following student services fee agreement. And in the be it enacted clauses, we see the exact contract that they are already operating under, with the only adjustments made in number 1 for the allocation dollar amounts for FY26 and FY27, with no other corrections to what is currently in our statutes. I am sorry for how difficult that was for me to read for some reason.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author, Senator Shirkey?
Yeah, on the agenda that we're provided, it looks like you're using the old amount, the 4,600,000 whatever, instead of the new amount, the 5 million and more.
In the contract language?
Yeah, so like 56 to 61. Is it supposed to have that 5 million number?
Can you give me a line number, please?
Line 57, line 58.
We're going to fix that in committee.
Cool.
Elections Commissioner Kermer.
We've seen like some reviews of contracts happening, and like we have this one coming up that's like increasing what these groups are getting. Where is this money coming from exactly?
We were able to bring in a $1.3 million surplus to the budget this year due to enrollment increases. So every undergraduate student who is taking at least 12 credit hours and every graduate student who's taking at least 9 credit hours pays into the fee. So when we see enrollment increasing across campus and we have more students on campus, we'll have more people paying into the fee, which leaves us with a budget surplus. And after the severe budget cuts that we've done over the past 3 years, the budget that we're currently operating at is lower than it used to be, and therefore we are bringing in more money than we quote unquote need, which is why we're able to reallocate some of those funds back to entities that were severely cut due to COVID, like Lafayette.
Caucus Leader Black.
Where does this money go if we don't spend it?
If we don't spend out that $1.1 million that we're looking at to allocate, it will go into the emergency and debt reduction reserve account controlled by SGA. So we can either allocate it out so that student fee dollars will be used by the students who are currently on campus and help them because they've paid into it, or it will simply go sit in reserves and wait for the next rainy day, like another pandemic, to come hit us.
Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? Senator Kermer.
Do we think this money that we're going to increase to Lafayette, do we think it's going to provide a better quality of service for people who go to Lafayette?
Almost certainly. Their main problem right now is with staffing problems, in that health centers are very overworked, but are getting paid a little bit less than what they should. And we also have some very outdated equipment that will be addressed later with one of our one-time allocations. So just being able to pay people what they're owed will definitely help increase the quality of service and the availability of appointments. That's the main complaint that I hear from students, is that there aren't appointments available at Lafayette when they need them. And that is simply because we can't keep staff on our books because we don't have the money to pay them. And we don't have the money to have full-time employees. So I think our X-ray tech is part-time and leaves at like 3 p.m. So I kind of needed an X-ray on Tuesday and couldn't get one because it was 4.
Any further questions for the author or corrections? Seeing none, thank you. Now looking for a motion to consider Bill 242576, amendments to the KSU SGA statutes, updating the SSF review schedule. Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Resolution 70 out of order.
Second.
Are there any objections? Will the author please come forward as we consider Resolution 242570, allocation of student general surplus funds for Levine Health Center?
Interim Chair,
Senator Shirkey.
I move to allow the author to summarize.
Second.
Are there any objections? The author may summarize.
Because of how much I struggled with those last whereas clauses, I will summarize. We have reviewed Lafine out of their 3-year cycle, and they brought us a request for updating their x-ray equipment. Currently, they're using cassettes as their x-ray equipment, which means that you are getting a very low quality x-ray that is hard to transfer in between healthcare providers. They would like to update this equipment, which will have a one-time cost of $51,000 and then has a 5-year service agreement of $18K annually. We're pulling this out of the debt reduction and emergency allocation account, which is projected to contain $2,894,000 for FY25. The Student Services Fee Committee believes that Lafine Health Center is an important pillar of student health and well-being. Therefore, the Lafine Health Center serves thousands of students annually, including 930 students during the FY23-24 academic year who required radiology services for diagnostics and treatment, whereas the one-time allocation to Lafine Student Health Center will ensure budgetary consistency and allow for continual operations without unnecessary reserve depletion. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee voted 7-0 to recommend the Student Senate agreement to Student Senate. And then in the be it enacted clause, we simply have the amount being pulled from reserves. It is a one-time allocation with the understanding that it will be spent out over the next 5 years to meet that ongoing service agreement after the capital expenditure of the $51K.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author, Cockesley or Holzmeister?
So if the x-ray tech leaves early, why should we buy a new x-ray machine?
It was explained to the committee that if you take your German Shepherd to the nearest veterinary hospital, vet clinic, vet med, they will receive a far better x-ray than you will get right now if you go to Lafine and you have a broken bone. That is how aged and difficult to work with our equipment is. It is also sort of the assumption that if we do this one-time allocation, it will be given in the same year that we are increasing Lafine's budget, which will mean they're able to keep the x-ray tech on longer. But regardless of if the x-ray tech is there or not, the quality of the x-ray that you are getting is very poor, and students should have a digital x-ray machine that allows them to easily transfer that between hospitals and doctors without having physical cassettes of their x-rays.
Cockesley or Janik?
Why is it really important that they do this, that they get this equipment right now instead of waiting a few years or something like that?
Because students need it now, I suppose. I mean, every day people walk into Lafine and they need an x-ray, and it is far cheaper for a student to go to Lafine and get their x-ray done than it would be to go to the nearest emergency clinic. So it'll help people immediately.
Senator Griffith.
Lines 37 and 38 are formatted incorrectly. And there is a missing letter in the whereas on line 36.
Thank you. Senator Shirkey.
I have a technical question. So I'm just, as the chair, I'm sure you know why the most appropriate form for this is a one-time allocation. But since, we know in this room and they know at Lafine that this is for a long-term project, is it necessary to, consider the case where the funds are not spent for this long-term project, that they're allocated for some other short-term need? And is there any remedy for that, or is that just something that comes up in the next Lafine review cycle, where we say, hey, why didn't we spend the money the way we wanted to?
I think that it would be something that would be picked up in the audit or in an annual review, where we're looking to see, did they spend the money on the thing that they promised they would spend their money on? And if not, then they owe us those funds back and we revoke them. But I feel like it is good to put trust in our agency directors that if they're going to put the money towards this, they actually will. And they're on the hook for it regardless. They have that $18K annual contract. So if they're not spending this money on it, I don't know where they're getting it from, but they owe someone else that money.
Thank you.
Coxeter Kidd.
I have two quick questions. First question is, this year, did Lafine provide the SSF committee any like documentation over like a breakdown of what services are utilized by students at Lafine? I'm curious as to how many students are going in to utilize X-ray services. Last time they provided that information to us, I don't think it was very high, so I'm just curious.
We have in the whereas clauses that just last academic year, there were 930 people that required an X-ray. I would say that's fairly high. It also is at a very significant discount that students get. So if you need that X-ray, it's way cheaper, even if you have private insurance, to use it at Lafine. I think 930 is pretty high.
Follow up? Yeah. And so then, so I guess my other question too, of the 930 from the last time they captured that info, I may be naive, but like a broken bone's a broken bone. So in what context then, how many are they saying that they can't resolve like directly through Lafine, that someone would have to refer to their own medical practitioner to resolve that X-ray related issue in-house or like out-of-house, if that makes sense?
Like when they need to transfer like the copy of the X-ray to another provider.
Yeah, is that common, did they say? Or?
I mean, I don't think it's fairly common, but people generally want to have a copy of their X-rays, or if it's not a broken bone, there might be something else internal, some inflammation that they're looking for in scanning that you might have to take to a specialist or a provider if you have something wrong with your liver or your kidney and required an X-ray for that, or women's health issues that require X-rays.
Coxeter Black.
I don't remember, but how much would it, do you know how much it would cost them to buy the new radiology equipment if there wasn't this opportunity right now?
No. Does a member of my committee have an answer to that off the dome? I defer to Senator Glasscock.
Approximately $140,000.
Well,
would it be market value? Because I believe it's $140,000 more, right?
Oh, yeah, I think it's about $300,000 new.
Never mind then.
It would be much more expensive. Part of why they're buying it right now is because they are getting this at a significant discount to the market price to get this old X-ray machine that's new to us and still far better than what we're currently operating on.
Senator Owen.
So obviously there's equipment there now. You're looking at trying to get something better. However, what's there isn't trash. Has there been any discussion about what they're going to do with the old equipment? And if so, if they decide that they want to sell it or recoup it somehow, has there been any talk about where that recoup money is going to go to?
Chair Lilly, did you want that one?
Yeah. Cassettes haven't been used in radiology for such a long time that they can't really get them anymore. Same goes for all of the parts to replace on anything that fails with this equipment. They have to go find salvage parts and then pay a marked up value for those salvage parts. The new X-ray machine would be significantly cheaper to keep, and also the distinction between them is that you don't have to carry a cassette into, like if you have to go to the hospital to have an operation done, you don't have to carry the cassette into the hospital and then they have to find some way to decode it. You can just get a digital copy and provide it.
Granted. I don't think my question is understood. My question is, if they get the new machine, what are they gonna do with the old one? And if they sell it, where's that money going to go if they sell it? Is it gonna come to us? Is it gonna go to them? Is it gonna be free money? What?
I can get it. The money would go into their operational costs, which would be good for them, seeing as how they're operating on a pretty heavy decrease due to COVID. But to my understanding, I don't think it's worth much. I think it's the equivalent of like using an iPhone 4 right now. Like it might still turn on, but we're looking for salvaged parts, and it's pretty hard to repair and manage. I think it's scrap metal.
Senator Zacko.
So you had mentioned a while ago about how Lafine is significantly cheaper for x-rays rather than if you were to go into the emergency room. I would venture to say that anything is cheaper than the emergency room. It's very expensive. How would you compare Lafine to someone like OSMC, for example, where they specialize in bone orthopedic processes? I've gotten all of my x-rays done there, and I mean, I do have private insurance, but how can you speak to the cost difference of those, and if it would be beneficial for students to actually seek out other providers rather than Lafine?
I mean, if you need a specialist for your bones, I would certainly seek that out. But I think a lot of times students walk into Lafine with like a general amorphous problem where they say this hurts, or I have pain here or discomfort here. And Lafine's a very good general practitioner place to go where they can run all of their labs in-house. We can do x-rays in-house, and that's part of what makes Lafine so special, that we have everything under one roof right there. Where if you need a specialist, it's probably going to be more expensive, but go to that. But if you're coming in with general like joint concerns or something else that they just want to do a quick x-ray and try to figure out what that problem is, or you have pain in your abdomen somewhere and they just need to do a quick x-ray and figure out what's inflamed, what's not, is it appendicitis, is it not? That's what Lafine's very good for.
Dr. Jackson.
So just to give you a point of order, so 3 of the physicians that are in Lafine actually serve as team doctors for the K-State Athletics. So they're dealing with broken bones and other things all the time from a body thing. So we have really strong docs. They just need really good equipment that's going to match their skill level. That typically when they do x-rays, for sports stuff, they go across the street. Where Lafine needs better equipment to match their skill level.
Caucus Leader Black.
Can I provide a clarifying point if I promise it's not like debatable?
No.
Point of information.
Granted.
Okay, thank you. Lafine's 2 doctors that were mentioned by previous speakers are sports medicine specialists. So they deal with sports medicine specialties for the athletes. So when athletes get injured, unless it is like a bone sticking out of your body, they will come to Lafine rather than going to the emergency room or somewhere like Express Wellness. Can I also address a point of information from like a question about a previous speaker? Is that out of order?
Let's hear it.
Okay, I looked up the average cost of a 2-view chest x-ray in Kansas. It is $134 before insurance. At Lafine, it is $90. So before insurance. Typically after insurance, you're looking at closer to $50. If you would like to talk about more prices, please see me after Senate. It's my job.
Caucus Leader Holzmeister.
So why should we fund this if it sounds like students have trouble getting in? So why would we fund this before fixing the problem of even getting in? Because I have been struggling to get into Lafine anytime I have a problem. So why would we spend $50,000 or however much on this equipment if students have trouble even getting appointments scheduled?
I would say that we're not doing this before that. I think the increase addressed in the other bill that is an introduction of legislation will definitely help with that, and that's part of its intent. And we'll be voting on that first. So I would say feel free if you want to base your vote on this passing off of if the other one also, the other increase also passes, that's your right. But I think our advisor put it really well when he said that we have really excellent people on our staff at Lafine. It would be nice if we had the the funds to keep them on all day instead of having a lot of our workers be part-time where they're leaving in order to be able to go get another job that will pay more and help them feed their families. If we could keep them around all day, just supplying them with the excellent equipment that they need to provide that super high quality of care and service. And if they are staffed all day, you'll have those appointments available when they're needed.
Caucus Leader Black, do you have anything else you want to add?
Just on the topic of insurance, will play a big role in what the costs are, and a lot of students may have different plans that require them to either have a referral before they're allowed to see any other medical care outside of their primary care physician. So there's a lot of situations where they may not be able to get in with the specialist for x-rays.
Okay, are there any further questions or corrections for the author on Resolution 70?
Can I provide
Caucus Leader Jonak.
point of information? One other quick point of information for anyone who's not aware, right now we're talking about a lot about the cost of the actual x-ray itself. If you were to go to somewhere like OSMC or literally anywhere other than Lafayette where you weren't paying the student services fee, you would be charged office visits. Office visits can range up to like $250 without insurance. Typically, if you have a copay, it's anywhere up to like $40 to see a specialist. So being able to get an x-ray without having to pay for the office visit charge is a huge asset that many people do not realize that Lafayette has, whereas if you went somewhere else.
Any further questions or corrections on Resolution 70? Thank you very much. With that, we'll move back into Bill 76, amendments to the KCSJ statutes updating the SSF review schedule. Is there a motion to consider Bill 76? Senator Shirkey.
I move to consider Bill 76.
Second.
All right. Please continue.
Amendment to the KSUSJ statutes updating the SSF review schedule. Authors Samantha Sushanik. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee is responsible for overseeing the allocation of student fees to ensure fiscal responsibility and alignment with student needs. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee conducts the reviews in accordance with a 3-year contract cycle. Whereas student agencies funded through the Student Services Fee manage large budgets that require flexibility to adapt to changing student need, economic conditions, and operational costs. Whereas the current review structure may limit their ability to make necessary budget adjustments in a timely manner. Whereas an annual review of these agencies will provide them with greater financial stability, allowing them to adjust their internal planning while giving the committee greater oversight. Whereas the agency directors, members of administration, and the Student Services Fee Advisor have reviewed and encouraged this change, and whereas this amendment will ensure that Student Health, K-State Student Union Operations, K-State Student Union Repair and Reserve, Repair and Replacement, K-State Student Union Repair and Replacement Reserve, Recreational Services, Repair and Replacement, and Recreational Complex Maintenance Reserve receive annual budget reviews that better support their long-term planning and serve students. Be it enacted that Section 1, Chapter 14 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association be amended to read as follows. 14.3, Student Services Fee Review Schedule. Student Services Fee shall be reviewed.
Just need to read the changes.
Thank goodness. In year A, we see that student health is struck. Year B, the K-State Student Union Operation, Reserve and Replacement, Union Operation Reserve Replacement Reserve, and the food contract termination agreement have been struck. And in year C, all 3 rec services have been struck. The Student Services Fee Committee shall review the following entities on an annual basis: Student Health, K-State Student Union Operations, K-State Union Reserve and Repair and Replacement, K-State Student Union Repair and Replacement Reserve, Recreational Services, Repair and Replacement, Recreational Complex Maintenance Reserve.
And yes, it does require the signature of the student body president. Elections Commissioner Kermer.
Where does Cats Cupboard fit within this review schedule?
That legislation had not passed at the time that this had been written, so that it was going to be something that will be handled in GovDocs revisions internally.
I guess, would you handle it in committee next week?
We'll handle in committee next week, but it'll be understood that it is likely starting in year A. So it'll probably be, no, not year A. What year are we in right now? We're in C. It'll probably join in year C, but
We're
it's...
in year B.
It's been a week, guys. It'll be in the year that it's currently operating in, but I will be advising very much in my transition docs to look at restructuring what our years are to make sure everything's balanced out. And 1 year isn't super heavy compared to the other ones. There's definitely going to need to be some adjustments going forward in the next 3 to 4 years.
Senator Griffith.
Could you expand on your reasoning as to why you want this to be the case?
This is something that I'm being very much advised by certain agency directors and members of administration. It is generally easier to operate on a 1-year budget rather than being locked into a 3-year contract. Whether you will be increased or decreased, looking at things annually generally helps from the financial side. My only concern is that it is going to take a lot of time for the committee to review all of these things. In full transparency, I had a meeting about this today, and I intend on amending this fairly substantially in committee to iron out some little issues.
Senator Sharkey.
I suppose what you just brought up is probably a primary reason against this, but why not do this for every organization? Like, why is it only the big three that are getting the annual reviews?
Taking baby steps. Doing an annual review is how most colleges do things. We're a little unique in that we're running things in a 3-year cycle. That's generally not advisable. But moving there slowly, I gotta say, SSF this term, we have pulled 2 entities out of cycle and also heard a presentation for a new one, and we're swamped. All of our meetings go from 5:30 to at least 8:30. I'm exhausted. My committee members are exhausted. So we just don't have the time to do as in-depth of a review as we're used to and as we like doing. And I think that's part of what makes us like the 15th most involved student government in the country. So only pulling out those big 3 that get the most of our money is kind of a balance point, kind of the middle there where we want to do an annual review, but we also still want to do in-depth reviews. So those smaller entities that are maybe only operating on a budget of like $300,000 don't necessarily need an annual review. They can kind of keep the course and hold steady for 3 years.
Thank you.
Caucus Leader Black.
As you just mentioned, the committee's already swamped. How will this bill work? Like, how will that occur with this?
And that is my main concern with the bill and something that I have thought about and talked about extensively today in my meetings. I would like it to operate less as a 3-week review. You bring us what you have and we'll do a whole in-depth out-of-cycle thing, and maybe just keep them on their 3-year contract, but require the big 3 to make an annual like update report in person to the committee, and the committee can decide to pull them out of cycle. I think pulling out of cycle should become more common, if not a somewhat annual thing, but not necessarily a requirement that they must be reviewed annually, just in case the committee is swamped, or the committee might look at an entity and go, actually, seems great. You guys are doing fine. And then we're wasting 2 to 3 more weeks when we're making no changes.
Any further questions or corrections? I had one. You might have kind of touched on this already. But are you thinking about structurally changing the makeup of the committee at all to assist with some of these time constraints?
In a perfect world, the answer to that would be yes. I would love to have subcommittees working on these things, but in the world that we currently operate in, where our colleges aren't full, this room is half empty, we barely have quorum, it's simply not going to be achievable. So we have to work with what we're given right now, and that is barely making quorum.
Any further questions or corrections on Bill 76? All right, thank you very much. I'm now seeking a motion to bulk consider Bills 77 and 78. Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Bill 77 and 78.
Are there any objections? Will the author please come forward? Chair Sushanik.
I move to allow the author to summarize.
Are there any objections? You may summarize 77 and 78.
Bill 242577, amendments to KSU SGA bylaws regarding community engagement. Authors Joseph Lilly, Andrew Lee, and Samantha Sushanik. Basically, the point of this document is to rename DEIB and DPF to be more in line with the way the university has their offices named now. They renamed their Office of DEIB to Access and Opportunity. So this kind of just puts the naming of our committee that works closely with them more in line with the name of the department. And then 78 is the same thing, except in the statutes.
Senator Griffith.
Bill 78, line 43, section 3, the student body president's signature is required.
It's the statutes.
It is explicitly only.
Only section 2 of the statutes does not require the student body president's signature.
Oh, okay. It is old. My bad.
Senator Shirkey.
Line 4 on either Bill 77 or 78. I don't know which one's right, but they're different. One of them has an and one of them doesn't, so one of those is wrong.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's real fun. Any further questions or corrections? I have one. What committee would you like these to be sent to after today? Okay.
I think DEIB.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we want some input on this, I think. Yeah, definitely that.
Okay. Any further questions or corrections on 77 and 78? Chair Sushanik.
Yeah, why is it DCP instead of you know what I'm asking.
We're changing DBF to Community Programming Fund rather than Community Engagement Fund because CEF is already taken by the Campus Entertainment Fund. So we don't want confusion with the acronyms. That's literally the sum total.
Anything else? Senator Griffith.
Is the acronym of the committee pronounced SEC or KEC?
We're gonna go with KEC. I think KEC is fine.
Anything further? Senator Zacko.
Were there any other secondary motivations for renaming this committee rather than alignment with university status quo, I guess?
We don't have any lawyers, and the university does. So realigning all of our procedures with theirs is just kind of a matter of safety.
Any further questions or corrections? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move into Bill 242579, amendments to the KSUSJ bylaws regarding judicial interpretations. Is there a motion to consider Bill 79? Senator Shirkey.
I move to consider Bill 79.
Second.
Okay, author is already here.
Bill 242579, amendments to the KSU SGA bylaws regarding judicial interpretations. Authors Joseph Lilly, Andrew Navarro, and Samantha Suchanek. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association should ensure the correct interpretation of all governing documents. Whereas as legislation is added to the KSU SGA governing documents, unintended implications may occur. Whereas having 3 branches in KSU SGA ensures we have a vital system of checks and balances. Whereas the current system for requesting a judicial interpretation adds unnecessary barriers to the process, and whereas providing a simpler internal process for requesting a review will allow for greater understanding and transparency of our governing documents, which mitigates potential conflict. Be it enacted that Section 1, Article 5, Section 13, Part B1 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association bylaws be amended to read as follows. A request for interpretation signed by the student body president, speaker of the student senate, or senate operations committee chair, or a written petition signed by a number of members of the student body that shall be equal to or greater than 5% of the total votes cast in the most recent KSU SGA general election for the KSU SGA president and vice president. The number required for this petition shall be rounded up to the nearest whole number if necessary. Section 2, this legislation shall take effect upon passage by the student senate and signature of the student body president.
Are there any questions or corrections on Bill 79, Senator Shirkey?
Yeah, so just a question about, the precise balance on lines 29 and 30. There's a lot of ways you can structure this. You can have a number of senators. You can have only the speaker and the pro tem, president, vice president. Why'd you choose this specific combination of KSU SGA officers? What makes this the best combination?
Frankly, I was going to make it so that the future Senate Operations Committee chair could do it, because there were numerous times this term that I wanted to ask and had to unofficially ask. And it would have been nice to have an official judicial interpretation to back up any legislation correcting our governing documents.
Granted.
You've half answered it, but what was the inciting incident? Why is this legislation necessary right now? Examples of where it would have been helpful in the past, that sort of thing.
From what I've heard, word is that student tribunal wants more stuff to do. This goes to student tribunal, and they don't have as many cases as the other judicial branches, so they're perfectly content with the workload as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I think that's about answers it.
Thank you.
Any further questions or corrections for the author? I have one. In previous years, the Student Tribunal has told us that due to the fact that within the Constitution, the only officer that has a enumerated duty to request a tribunal interpretation is the president, that only they can request interpretations, and that no matter what the bylaws or statutes say, the Constitution usurps it. What have you done to change the parts of the Constitution to alleviate this concern?
You could have told me this 2 days ago.
I didn't see this until today.
Well, I wasn't aware of it until now either, so we'll take a look at that in reference of legislation.
I have a follow-up.
Oh, boy.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Section 5 of the bylaws is the judicial section of the bylaws?
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding, the judicial section of the bylaws requires that General Counsel overview all changes to Section 5 of the bylaws. Has General Counsel looked over this?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or corrections for the author? Thank you very much. We're now moving into Bill 80, Amendments to the KSU SGA bylaws regarding initiatives, referenda, and plebiscites. Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Bill 80.
Second.
Thank you. Would the author please come forward? Chair Koch, perfect.
We wanted to give Joe and Sam a break today, guys. So
Bill 242580, amendments to the KSU SGA bylaws regarding initiatives, referenda, and plebiscites. Authors Joseph Lilly, Anna Koch, and Samantha Sushanik. Whereas the Senate Operations Committee otherwise only addresses internal matters of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA. Whereas the Strategic Oversight Committee, as an outward-facing committee, is better positioned to handle initiatives, referenda, and plebiscites. I can't say that word. And whereas refining the roles and responsibilities of committees results in more consistent operation and increases the efficiency of KSU SGA, be it enacted that Section 1, Article 4, Section 11H of the KSU SGA bylaws shall be amended to read as follows. Senate Operations Standing Committee shall have, just basically strike passage of initiatives, referenda, and plebiscites. Section 2, Article 4, Section 11, Part H3F of the student body of the KSU SGA bylaws shall be amended to read as follows. Manage the process of enacting initiatives, referenda, and plebiscites. All bills calling for initiative, referendum, or plebiscite shall be referred to the Strategic Oversight Committee. Should the Speaker of the Student Senate receive an initiative petition with the required signatures, then they will pass it on to the Strategic Oversight Committee Chair, who shall be responsible for turning the initiative into passable legislation to then be proposed at the next meeting of Student Senate, of which they will be considered an author along with KSU SGA et al. The Strategic Oversight Committee Chair, Standing Committee, will keep track of initiatives, referenda, and plebiscites passed during their term, and will provide them to the Senate Operations Committee to be added to the KSU SGA statutes upon conclusion of the term. Section 3, Article 4, Section 11, Part H3F of the KSU SGA bylaws shall be relocated and included in Article 4, Section 11, Part K3G. Section 4, this legislation shall take effect upon the passage of Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President.
Senator Shirkey.
I have a question for the interim chair that might be followed by a correction.
Okay.
For section 2, does it need to be something standing committee or just something committee whenever it's referred to?
Can you point to a line?
Line 30, the difference between 32 and 33.
And 36. Yeah.
Line 38. Would it hurt to propose a correction?
We'll double check it in ops.
Okay.
Senator Hoffman.
I just had a question over, I know the author of the bill that added this last year, I just had a question on how they felt about this, which I believe was Senator Griffith. So that's okay. If I can defer that.
Senator Griffith, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask for the author the reasoning behind moving this to expand on the reason why moving this from ops to oversight.
Yeah, so we think it's beneficial to move this from ops to oversight because Senate operations is supposed to focus on the operations of Senate. It's kind of in the name. And we think that these three actions are really more outward facing, especially because we do try to interact with students and try to get their feedback on different things, especially through the student issue survey. And so I think that this could just be better suited there to make sure that we are actually reaching out to the students to get their opinions on these matters.
Point of information.
Granted.
Just to explain the reasoning that it was added to the operations committee last year is because they handle elections and referendum and plebiscite use the elections process.
One of the reasons why, we would obviously be in contact with the Senate Operations Committee, but it's also, there's an extra layer of, it's this is the action going with it. Obviously, we have the elections within ops, but this is also moving it more to a committee that can focus on it more than Senate Operations candidate's capacity. I also defer to Chair Lilly.
we're gonna work with the elections commissioner, and I don't see it interfering with any of the elections processes, but I'm gonna iron that out with him to see if, to make sure that it's not affecting any of that process at all.
Senator Shirkey?
Yeah, point of information for the chair, followed by a question for the author. Point of information, did Bill 69 get put positively through final action?
Bill 69 did pass.
Okay, so then my question for the author is on line 33. Now that committees can author bills, do you think it's more appropriate to have Strategic Oversight Committee chair or Strategic Oversight Committee?
I think that that can be up to the chair and the committee themselves. Thank you. Just to so we can really have a discussion about it if the committee is obviously on board, but it will be on the chair to do that because they will be in relationship, have connections with the speaker who gives them that order.
Thank you.
Chair Lilly.
I would also add that this is something we are required to do, and could be pretty short-sighted to require a committee to agree to do something in a certain way. So having the chair do it kind of just negates any concern over a committee just refusing to, by majority vote, sponsor an initiative by the student body.
With that, are there any further questions or corrections for Bill 80? Thank you very much. With that, we'll move into Resolution 242571, approval of the FY 2026 student-centered tuition enhancements allocations. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 71? Senator Shirkey.
I move to consider Resolution 71.
Second.
All right. Will the author is coming? Okay.
Resolution 242571, approval of fiscal year 2026 student-centered tuition enhancement allocations. Authors Evelyn Ediger, sponsors Tuition Enhancement Committee. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Tuition Enhancements Committee is charged with the responsibility of evaluating SCTE proposals, whereas the SCTE Fund provides funding for programs that enhance student experiences at K-State and seed money for the creation and implementation of new programs and initiatives, whereas the estimated SCTE budget of the fiscal year 2026 totals $465,460, whereas the TEC considered 5 proposals for fiscal year 2026, whereas the SCTE proposals have been reviewed thoroughly and all applicants were given the supplementary opportunity to present the Tuition Enhancement Committee, and whereas the following organizations have met all the guidelines established by the Kansas State University Student Governing Association. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association supports the following recommendations of fiscal year 2026 student-centered tuition enhancement monies. Absent verification support specialist requested $31,761. We allocated the $31,000. The undergraduate research application project requested $20,000 and we allocated the $20,000. First Generation Education Abroad Initiative requested $92,320 and we allocated the $92,320. Opening Doors for K-State students requested $250,000 and we allocated the $250,000. And Sutherland Foundation Innovation Lab requested $27,997 and we allocated the $27,997. Section 2, any unspent funds shall automatically revert to the SCTE reserve account at the end of the fiscal year 2026. Section 3, upon passage of this legislation, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Kansas State University President Richard H. Litton, Kansas State University Vice President for Administration and Finance Ethan Erickson, and the Kansas State Board of Regents for approval.
Senator Shirkey.
Sorry, I need to wait for you to ask for questions or corrections.
That's what I meant. Questions or corrections.
You might not be able to answer this. You might have to defer to one of the other authors, but is it typical for the tuition enhancement operations committee to receive less in proposals than it has as a budget total for a semester?
I could not answer that. I wasn't on it previous years.
Point of information as previous chair.
Granted.
I wouldn't say it's typical. It fluctuates from year to year, but some level of recruiting is typically done to invite people to apply for SCTE funds. And in a year that that's not done, we might see a decrease.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? All right, thank you very much. With that, we finally, exhausted our legislative agenda for the evening. And we'll move into second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Chair Lilly.
I missed committee reports because I was busy apologizing to the Chancellor of Student Tribunal. But I got in contact with the emerging leaders coordinators, and they reached out to all the emerging leaders, and no one signed up to be an interim senator at all whatsoever, which kind of sucks, but that's where we're at. And then Brandon already did an elections report.
Yes, do you have an update on Bill 70?
Bill 70 being?
The amendments to the KSU-SGA bylaws regarding membership to the Senate Operations Committee.
Oh, yeah, I have to do that. That got tabled indefinitely. Thanks.
You're welcome. Are there any questions for the chair? Senator Shirkey.
Why?
The committee's reasoning was that the bill was written and sponsored by the committee before the spectacular numbers for election registration came out, and they felt it was no longer necessary to enact that as one of its primary goals was recruitment.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for the chair? Thank you. Are there any further second open period speakers? Senator Zacko.
Okay, perfect. I've been up here before for the last time with this Senate, unless I'm wrong and we have Senate next week, but I think this is the last.
We do have Senate next week.
Okay, there's Senate next week. Anyway, pretend I didn't just say that. So, I've been up here to talk about the golf cart. I'm back up here again. We really want to make a big push for Coming Together for a Cure. If you're not familiar with Coming Together for a Cure, it is a nonprofit founded by a K-State alum, and all of the money that they raise goes directly to supporting adults with muscular dystrophy, as well as other life-threatening diseases. Their big thing is they do adult stem cell therapy. The founder himself had a little brother with muscular dystrophy, and this therapy helped him extend his life and reverse some of the damage caused by this disease before he did eventually pass away. But this is great work that they're doing. If you look on their website, they have lots of videos. You can search on YouTube. But I'm here to encourage you guys, again, to buy raffle tickets. What do you get out of these raffle tickets? Well, you get the chance to win a K-State themed golf cart. And as I said 2 or 3 weeks ago, if you hate K-State or golf, you can sell it on Facebook Marketplace for a profit. So it's kind of a good deal you got going on there. And like I said, this is through the sales program, by the way. The sales program gets absolutely $0 out of this. I get $0 out of this. My other peers running this auction, we don't get any money. It all goes to this charity that I think is really worthwhile. So if you would like to donate, buy some raffle tickets, scan that QR code up there. Or can you scroll down a little bit, Anna? Yeah, text wildcart43 to 71777. And that'll get you where you need to go. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. But this is a great charity that I would highly recommend supporting.
Senator Hoffman.
Yeah, when is the deadline for this?
If I'm not mistaken, I think we can sell raffle tickets up until the night of the auction, which is May 9th. Most of our other products that are for the NSSI, so like sponsorships that businesses purchase, those are like mid-April. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure May, beginning of May.
But if you want to buy them now, I think that's great. I've already bought some raffle tickets because I know my grandpa would love this golf cart. So
Granted, yeah, thank you. How many raffle tickets have you bought, if you feel inclined to say?
I've bought 3 because they have a 3 for $50.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good
3
deal.
for $50 or 1 for $20. So I bought 3, and if my grandpa wins, he doesn't even golf, but he would just love this, I think. So, yeah.
Are there any further questions for the speaker? Thank you, Senator Zacko. With that, Senator Hoffman.
You like my very formal email, Hannah?
If it loads.
If it loads. Once that loads, I'm up here to talk about Mortarboard, and also, hey, Greg Gard, I told you I wore the merch this week. Here it is. Here it is. So it's $35. I can probably get you a deal. I can squeak something out. But we'll see. If you like it, it's good. They're playing at Fakes. I posted. I got somewhere you can be this weekend. The Mortarboard, great application. You should join this. If you're a junior, if you have over 70 hours, wonderful. This is where, if you guys remember a couple weeks ago when I was advertising the scholarships for this about picking up rocks at the zoo, same guys, lovely guys, great people, very fun. If it's good to volunteer, help the Manhattan community out. It's really cool. Looks good on a resume. Junior or above, please apply. Any questions?
Are there any questions for the speaker? Senator Holmes.
Do you have to be a current junior? Like, or can I be like a going into my junior?
You have to have at least 75 credit hours by January 1st, 2024. So, is that you? Apply next semester.
Senator Griffith.
So you needed to have
Wait,
5 credit hours.
that is January 1st, 2025. That's wrong. Yeah, thank you.
That is.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions for the speaker, Senator Morris?
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Okay.
Do you have a question anyway?
Any further questions, Senator Kramer? Senator Kramer, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Any further questions? All right, thank you, Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, guys.
Are there any further speakers for second open period? Senator Shirkey?
Chair Coke, I sent you the link. So as some of you guys might have seen in the Senate channel today, we had a bit of an unexpected bit of shipping for the Donations for Citations program. That's fine. I spoke with the staff members after that. There's nobody's fault as far as I can tell. It just happens. You know, it's great, right? Program's got more food input than we'd expected. With that said, when this eventually loads, you'll see an opportunity for the legislature, the best branch, to show that it is the best branch. I was hoping it would show up. Okay.
That is allowed.
Dramatic timing's been ruined. So the link, which I'd ask the parliamentarian or the chair to send through the SGA thing, just to remind everyone of, in case they didn't get it, for the Donations for Citations program. Legislative is filled, exec and judicial are not. You guys should put your names in there just to show them who's boss. That's my recommendation. Also, like, if you don't do that, it will not get delivered, and like critical food services will not be provided. So please, put your names in there. Make Cat's Cupboard work. Yeah, it'll be great. Especially like right after spring break, where I think it's like me and Glasscock are signed up. We're probably gonna need more help if there's anything that rolls in over that time.
I mean, we can get like a trolley or something, right?
We have, like, there's a lot of carts and trolleys and stuff. If you're helping, please take the crates back. Don't leave them at the Cat's Cupboard place. We get really screwed when we try and load the next, like, batch of supplies. So please volunteer, steal spots from the other branches, show them who's boss, and yeah.
Chair Coke.
Are you opposed to whoever signs up deleting whatever branch it is, writing legislative to show them who is boss?
I, as a
I'm not opposed to that. Do it.
The law has spoken.
I do not condone fraud. I do condone sending a message. So,
Senator Glanville.
Point of information, please do bring a card. There's a, pardon the French, a ton of stuff back there. And it is not, unless you want to take like 6 trips
no,
by
it's
leg.
like a block away. The Cat's Cupboard building is like a block away from the parking garage. So you need a vehicle. Otherwise, you're going to be like poor Vice Chair or Caucus Leader Richenberg, who has to not car several loads of stuff on his own. Please don't do that. We'll feel bad for you, but it's stupid.
I have a question for Caucus Leader Richenberg. Were you able to use a bike at all to potentially deliver things, or is that not possible?
No, I walked it.
Are there any further questions for the speaker? All right, thank you, Senator Shirkey. Are there any further second open period speakers tonight? All right, with that, Interim Secretary Strunk will take it away with Senate shoutouts.
There are 69. And I feel it as though it is my duty to read all of them.
Yes. Yeah.
There are now 70. Please stop the pain. Shout out to Sam, do you need a break? You've been up there all night. Shout out more Zoo Rock people. Shout out to these chicks don't even know the name of my band. Shout out to actually showing up tonight. Shout out to Captain, most likely to forget to vote for their proxy for his service to Senate, dismissed. Shout out to Gavin and Brian for babysitting while our parents are away. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Gavin, you better read these. I'm cooking up a lot of them. Senator Alvarez. Shout out to Jacob repping a band he's not in. Shout out to Joseph's haircut, but unfortunately, it didn't fix that. Shout out to Gavin being a man of many things. Shout out to Go Golf Carts, better than driving my non-existent bike. Shout out to Andrew Lee for getting to mute his mic. Shout out to having a snack during Senate, putting the 8 in Senate. Shout out to going to VetMed for an x-ray. Correction, both Joseph and Sam take the cake for the most time at the podium. Shout out to not knowing when the last Senate is. Shout out to Pro Tem Gavin Hesseltine on his successful transition, all while managing to keep his traditional charm. HRT sure is magic. I feel like I'm living in an SNL skit. Shout out to you, third time's the charm, Sam. Third time's the charm. Shout out to Anna, looking up there, Pookie. Shout out Anna for bringing the best cookies. Shout out everyone for coming. Shout out to my Pookie Sam for being the senator with the most podium time tonight. Shout out to the hatred of clapping. Shout out to 3 Italian hands emojis. Please read this. It took me too long to find the Italian hand emoji. Shout out to Brian for just making motions for everyone. Shout out to being the alpha branch. Shout out to Samantha for writing 300 bills. Shout out to the guys up front. They should pay you for having to deal with us while the others are gone. We will accept your money. Shout out
to Venmo, Cash App,
personal check.
Food donations as well. If they can cover citations, they can pay us any of that.
I'd take gold. I mean,
yep.
Shout out to golf carts. I may need one after losing my car. Shout out to Gavin eating his pen. Shout out to Brian doing far better as speaker than Carson ever has. Damn. Shout out to Andrew for yapping out of turn. Also, shout out to Brian for starting an argument every time I went up there to speak. Also, Joseph. Shout out to elections. Congratulations, everyone. Shout out. Oh, somebody just submitted one. Don't do that. It just fucked up my list. Apologies.
Hot mic.
Apologies. But now I have to scroll. Hang on. Shout out to Brian Blood. Don't pass. A pass vote is a no vote. Also Brian Blood. Pass. Shout out to the half-empty chamber. Shout out to Sam's haircut. Much slay. Shout out to the left side of the room. Where are all the people at? Shout out to Jacob's drunk second open speech. Shout out to the uncomfortable parley chair. It is pretty uncomfortable. Shout out to Brian going in depth about the announcements. Shout out to SSF. Y'all deserve a nap. Shout out to Tricky Dick being featured for yet another quote of the week. Shows you exactly what kind of a government Brian likes. Shout out to Joe and Sam's new haircuts. They very cutesy. Shout out to Joseph and Sam for sitting closer to the mic tonight. They needed it. Shout out to Anna slaying up there. I see you, Pookie. Shout out to zesty mom and dad of Senate. Shout out to Brain being out for blood. Shout out to Gavin. What are you doing on your phone? What would you guys like to know? Shout out to Anna being a great parley. Shout out to Caffeine. Shout out to Brian for passing after giving a dissertation. Shout out to the new whip, the golf cart. I'm getting soon. Maybe. Shout out to I should get paid for the amount of shout outs I've cooked up in this chamber. Shout out to Brian for working his dream job, being mean with a mic. Shout out Joseph for using his least likely to vote for their proxy superlative as a placard. Shout out to Sam, you look so cute, slay queen. Shout out to Sam and Joseph for offering most of the legislation. Shout out to you. You can take the scuffed mic away from Brian, but you can't take the Brian away from the scuffed mic. Shout out Vibes. If you know, you know. Shout out to the Sam and Joseph show tonight. Shout out to Take the Crates Back. Shout out to Show 'em Who's Boss. Shout out Fraud. Shout out Brian Blood. I am the Senate. Shout out to Not Car. Shout out to allowing clapping after first open period speeches, commendations, and whenever we get to own the other branches.
You got that right.
Shout out to Ben, slaying, delivering donations. Shout out to Ben, being a little walking Pookie. And shout out to Gavin for reading all the shout outs. Wow.
Yeah, we're gonna give you a raise there, buddy, soon.
I need it.
Yeah, and with that, Gavin has to speak even more with a second roll call, so someone may want to go get him a glass of water here after this one.
Do you have reference of legislation first?
Oh, thank you. I do. Bills 75, 76, and Resolution 70 are going to go to the Student Services Fee Committee. Bills 77 and 78 are going to go to the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. Bills 79 and 80 are going to go to the Senate Operations Committee, and Resolution 71 will go to the Tuition Enhancements Committee.
I'll need that for the minutes after this.
No worries. And now, Interim Secretary Strunk will take it away with the second roll call.
Excellent. Let me pull this up. All right. Alvarez.
Here.
Bailey. Oop. Black.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Byers. Koch.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
George.
Yeah.
Giefer.
Here.
Glanville.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Still here.
Hassan Shakib. Holmes.
Here.
Holzmeister.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Jonak.
Here.
Carton. Kidd.
Here.
Kermer. Kramer.
Here.
Lee. Lilly.
Here.
Moltz. Morris.
Here.
The guy Velasquez.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Owen.
Here.
Polanco. Prey.
Yeah.
Rabi.
Yeah.
Rafferty.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Shasavari. Shirky.
Here.
Sides. Stewart.
Here.
Sushanik.
Here.
And Zacko.
Here.
Did I miss anybody? Yeah. All right.
All right, and with that, is there a motion? Senator Glasscock.
Second.
That is out of order.
I move to adjourn until March 13th in Wildcat Chambers at 7 or 7:30, depending on the chair's, on the speaker's discretion.
Second.
Are there any objections?
I object.
All right, we now have to have a hand vote. All those in favor of adjourning until 7 or 7:30, depending on the speaker's discretion for next Thursday, March 13th, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All those opposed, same sign.
It needs to start at 7.
We stand adjourned.